Welcome to the Unfiltered Life channel. Today, I'm going to read Giselle's story. That's right, my husband offered me to his friend. My name is Giselle. I'm 32 years old and have been married to Tom, who's 34, for 3 years. But our story began long before that. We dated for 7 years, building a relationship based on love, respect, and above all, communication. I always thought I knew every part of him, his desires, his dreams. But sometimes, even the strongest relationships can surprise us. It was a quiet night at the bar we often visited, a place filled with memories we had shared. The music in the background was just our style, melodies that blended nostalgia with relaxation. Sitting at the counter, we laughed at inside jokes that only made sense to us, wrapped in our little bubble of togetherness. In the midst of this cozy atmosphere, Tom spotted a familiar face across the room. With a wide smile, he got up to greet a friend, David, someone he knew from the gym. I watched from a distance, thinking it was just another acquaintance, someone for a quick hello and goodbye. But David seemed different. He walked over with a confident stride and joined us. He was the kind of person whose mere presence exuded a sense of ease. The conversation among the three of us began casually. Comments about the music, praise for the craft beer Tom insisted on ordering, and jokes about exhausting gym routines. I found myself smiling effortlessly, surprised at how naturally David fit into the dynamic. But at some point, the mood shifted. Perhaps it was the intensity of the glances, the depth of the conversation, or something subtler that I couldn't pinpoint at the moment. What started as lighthearted chatter began to venture into uncharted territory. Tom noticed David's glances and suddenly gave a smile that seemed to imply something I didn't yet understand. I realized something important was about to be said. There was an almost palpable tension in the air, a stark contrast to the carefree moments we had just shared. He hesitated for a moment, looking at me as if seeking permission to proceed. When he finally spoke, his words carried an unexpected weight. "There's something I've always wanted, but I've never had the courage to say," Tom said. My mind started racing with possibilities. Was it about our future? A dream related to work or our life together? But no, it was something completely unexpected. With a firm yet nervous tone, he said, "I've always wanted to see you with another man." For a second, I thought I had misheard him. A beat of the music in the background muffled part of the sentence, but the look in Tom's eyes told me everything. My heart raced, and a flood of emotions overwhelmed me. Shock came first, like a jolt, followed by growing disbelief. My thoughts spiraled, trying to make sense of what was happening. How could he say something like that? Especially him, who always seemed so clear about the boundaries and desires in our relationship. It wasn't just the desire itself that unsettled me, but the fact that he had kept it to himself for so long. The person I believed I knew so deeply had hidden something so intimate and in many ways so impactful for both of us. I looked at him, trying to decipher his intentions. The sincerity on his face disarmed me, but I still felt exposed by his declaration in front of David. It was as if the solid foundation of our trust had suddenly cracked. Tom noticed my silence and quickly tried to ease the tension. "I just thought I should tell you. I'm not trying to pressure you. I just felt you should know." David, who had been a silent observer until then, seemed as shocked as I was. He looked at us with a mix of curiosity and discomfort, as if trying to figure out where he fit into this surreal situation. My mind wavered between confronting Tom and trying to process what this meant for us. Was it a fleeting desire, something deeper, or just a reflection of a void I hadn't noticed? Tom moved closer to David, pulling him into an embrace that felt loaded with intent. It was an unexpected gesture. As they hugged, I noticed Tom lean his head slightly, whispering something to David's ear. From where I sat, I couldn't hear what was said, but David's expression shifted subtly, his eyes narrowing for a moment, as if processing something deeply unexpected. Later, I came to understand the meaning of that whisper. Tom was inviting David to be with me. The moment I realized this, a wave of conflicting emotions hit me. The initial shock was quickly followed by a torrent of questions exploding in my mind. David, on the other hand, reacted in a surprisingly respectful manner. From what I understood, he accepted without hesitation, yet he remained calm, adopting a careful demeanor that seemed to consider not just what Tom had suggested, but also the impact it might have on me. He didn't appear to be there to force anything or cross any boundaries that weren't explicitly clear and consensual. Even so, the weight of that proposal lingered in the air, making it impossible to ignore the gravity of the situation. As the two exchanged brief glances, as if sealing some kind of unspoken agreement, my thoughts began to spiral. Why did Tom want this? Where was this desire coming from? Insecurity crept in, bringing painful doubts. Was he unhappy with me? Was I, in some way, not enough for him? I looked at Tom, searching for answers in his gestures, the tone of his voice, or even the way he looked at me. But everything seemed like a mystery, an emotional labyrinth I didn't know how to navigate. The only certainty was that this night, which had started so simply and peacefully, had taken a turn I could never have anticipated. David stood up and, with a calm smile, extended his hand to me. It was an invitation to dance right there, in the small improvised space between the bar's tables. For a moment, I hesitated. It wasn't common for me to accept something like that from a stranger, and the discomfort was written all over my face. Still, something about him, the gentleness of the gesture, made me give in. Perhaps it was his way of creating a connection, a bond that could make this moment feel less strange. When he took my hand, I felt the firmness and security in his touch, as if he were silently saying, "It's okay, you're in control." During the first few minutes, my mind was in turmoil, my steps were stiff, and every movement felt overly calculated. But then I looked at him. His eyes were kind, almost as if they were asking for permission to continue. That shifted something within me. Slowly, I began to relax, letting the music guide our movements and allowing the moment to unfold more naturally. We danced for a while, lost in a rhythm that seemed to be just ours. The bar around us faded away, curious glances became insignificant, and for a brief time, it was just the music and the energy we exchanged. Tom watched from the bar, his expression hard to fully decipher, though it conveyed a mix of curiosity and approval. After about an hour, we decided to head back to our apartment. The light and relaxed conversation followed us as we walked. It was as if the initial tension had been left behind at the bar. Once at the apartment, we prepared a few more drinks, choosing our favorite beverages. We weren't drunk, far from it. The alcohol served more as a detail to maintain the laid-back vibe, a pretext to extend that moment of closeness a little longer. The atmosphere shifted once again. There was something in the air, a mix of freedom and anticipation. We were more relaxed, more at ease, as if all the walls had come down. The night, which had begun as a routine evening, was now unfolding into a series of unexpected moments, each charged with an intensity that was both strange and fascinating. When he moved closer, his eyes locked on mine. Something inside me held back. He seemed so near, so confident, yet there was an invisible barrier I couldn't ignore. When he tried to kiss me, my body hesitated, and a shiver ran up my spine. Part of me, perhaps the more rational side, kept saying this was wrong, that boundaries were being crossed in a way I couldn't control. I wanted to resist, to shout for everything to return to normal, but something inside me was changing. The pressure of his rough hands resting on my waist and the warmth of his breath enveloped me in such a way that, little by little, I began to give in. We were all in the living room. Tom sat on a stool by the bar, drink in hand, just watching. David removed his shirt, then took off my dress, and soon we were both naked. Hesitation gave way to surrender, and with the gentle touch of his lips on mine, something inside me broke free. It wasn't just a physical act. It felt as if a part of me had finally been unleashed, a part that, until then, had been trapped in a rigid idea of right and wrong. The rest of the night unfolded with unexpected intensity. Every movement, every mischievous glance carried a deeper weight. I glanced at Tom, who was also naked, but didn't come near David or me. Somehow that made me feel freer, more uninhibited. Watching Tom's satisfied expression as he observed David taking me in so many intense ways, as if channeling all his testosterone, only fueled my desire for David even more. Seeing Tom watching us stirred something in me, making me crave being explored by David even further. It felt as if time had slowed down, creating a space where everything became surreal. What once seemed unthinkable was now happening with an unsettling ease. And despite how unusual the situation was, I felt no shame or regret. Instead, there was a sense of losing control that both consumed me and made me feel more alive than ever. David transformed from a gentleman into a wild, voracious man. With every way he touched me, turned me, and took me, I noticed Tom was in a state of pure delirium, and I was even more so. Watching him as a spectator, taking in every moment of what David and I were doing together, heightened my excitement. When we finally relaxed, the three of us lay there on the living room floor for some time until the sun began to rise. As the soft golden light filled the room, I felt completely exhausted. Every muscle in my body ached, tense and sore, yet there was something deeper, a newfound lightness, a sense of freedom that had mingled with that exhaustion. It was as if, by giving in to something so unexpected, I had freed myself from invisible shackles, ones I had unknowingly placed upon myself. I didn't know what would come next, what this meant for me or for Tom, but one thing was certain: something inside me had changed forever. David eventually left, and we returned to our routine. Strangely enough, nothing between Tom and me had changed. On the contrary, something felt like it had shifted for the better. It seemed somehow that we had crossed a boundary that brought us even closer together. I don't know if something like this will ever happen again. Maybe it won't need to, or maybe it will, because it was so good, and you always want more of what's good. But if it does, it will always be with Tom, never on my own. What truly matters is that I've learned true love can take many forms, and that sometimes breaking the rules we've created for ourselves can teach us more about who we are and what life means. Morality is something created by humans. What's important is looking within and finding peace. This was Giselle's story on Unfiltered Life. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Here we always share real-life stories to help you reflect and learn from the experiences of others. Check out the description box and watch the 2 videos I've recommended for you. See you in the next story from Unfiltered Life.